Are you familiar with any current use today, like any sort of stories about sessions underway that are looking for service or looking for help getting the Synclavier back online or something like that?
I'm not totally familiar, but a person that I hired at New England Digital who was standing in line at the 1987 Audio Engineering Society convention was a young man named Sean Callery, who at that time was 24, just graduated from New England Conservatory, and he played a phenomenal piano, and I thought he probably did play a phenomenal piano, because you couldn't get through the New England Conservatory unless you did play phenomenally. So I asked him to go sit in on the demonstration of the Synclavier, and he came out and he said, "That's a brilliant product." And I said, "Well, I thought you'd say that. Would you like to apply for the product specialist job in California, because we're opening up a new office?" He did. He was hired. He worked for me for 8 years. He now writes all the music for the Program 24. And so he's the sound engineer. He writes all his music for the Program 24. All that stuff you hear is Sean. And he's told me that he still uses a Synclavier on a lot of the ideas but now he has a whole room full of equipment. But even today, New England Digital is still on the cutting edge of music design, either through people or through its technology. But there's still about 50 or 75 units that I know of are still active out there in the market.
Synclavier that I used and I had experience with was self-contained, and so I don't think there was, if there was signaling or controlling data passing, it was hidden from me. Right. So I'm curious, what is can you tell about the parallel development of MIDI and New England Digital's Synclavier?
Well, that's a good question. MIDI came out as a spec in, I think, 82, 83, and that sort of started that direction. And my hardware engineer always said, we're MIDI in a box, and all that MIDI stuff has delays built in, and at that time the audio quality sucked, so they didn't like it. So you had to understand, I had some dilettantes who were the engineering team that I had to deal with, and they really were, if it wasn't the best, then it wasn't worth doing. And so there were a lot of flaws to them, and the MIDI at that time did have a lot of flaws. Today it doesn't have the flaws. It's a well-perfected protocol, but back then it did. And so, we really looked at the Synclavier as a device in and of itself, where that was its benefit, and that's probably was its downfall, which was it was too much power and too much to control under one environment. And so as time went on, we built our own computers, and designed our own computers, we designed our own operating system in XPL, we designed all our input and output cards, our own memory cards, etc., etc. And eventually in the late 80s we were morphing to an off-the-shelf to start to plug into a Mac. And we had that design in the lab, but we never got it to market in time for many reasons, primarily because we were primarily funded by venture capitalists who were not organic enough in the growth of the company. Going from 300,000 to 25 million in 10 years was not fast enough for them. So they wanted to go faster, and it just took time. So we ended up going on a tangent, and it caught up with us. So.
Was that old Mac interface new bus by any chance?
That's a good question. I can't remember exactly. It might have been.
That's okay.
I don't know that answer.
I'm guessing just based on the time frame.